ESBR Boxing. We are back, myself and Paul Kelly. That can mean only one thing. That means we're in preview mode, and we are indeed previewing some British and Commonwealth action this weekend. Before we get into that, I'd just like to say, like and subscribe to the channel. We've got all your boxing needs up and under one roof, big fight breakdown previews, all that good stuff. So like, subscribe, engage with the content. That will inform, obviously, the stuff that we do and the way we sort of cover stuff for your viewing pleasure. But Paul, as I mentioned, we are in British Commonwealth super middleweight action this weekend. We're previewing Callum Simpson versus Steed Woodall. And I suppose Callum Simpson's well known, isn't he, really, for amongst British fight fans, especially. Obviously, Zach Chelly fight recently as well. Another obviously fighter that's well known in Britain. But what I'm going to ask you really, Paul, is not to do too much of a tail of the tape, but we are going to focus here on Callum Simpson. We're going to focus at 168 pounds. And I'm going to ask you the question: do you think let's take Canelo out of the equation? Canelo's vacated, he's moved up. Do you think Callum Simpson could win a world title at super middleweight, Paul? What are you thinking?
Thanks for having me on, mate. Yeah, it's an interesting one. I think he's only 28, isn't he, Callum Simpson? Still a lot to prove, in my opinion, before you can talk about world title shots and so on and so forth. Yes, he has the British and Commonwealth belt, but for me, not being disrespectful to his resume, really, apart from Zach Chelly, who's he beaten, really? That's a good win, that Zach Chelly, and he looked good. He won convincingly. But, there's a difference between beating someone like Zach Chelly to even beating someone on that European slash fringe world level before then actually winning a world title. I think when you look at that super middleweight landscape, yes, Canelo has it on lockdown, but say he does vacate, say those belts become fragmented, there are so many top contenders from all around the world, really, that will have their name in the mix, will have their sights set on winning those belts. Whether or not Callum Simpson is one of them, yeah, potentially. Still a lot to prove for me. I can't sit here and say with confidence that he wins a world title at super middle. So for me, right now, I would say no. I don't think he does. But that's not to say should he win this fight against Steed Woodall, which isn't a foregone conclusion, by the way. Or if he is to beat, maybe clean up that British. I know he's the number one and so on and so forth. But if he's to clean up that British scene, win that European title, maybe have a few acid tests against former world champions at super middle, then yeah, come back to me and talk about potential
Hmm.
world title shots at 168 pounds. For me though, now I'm gonna go no. I think it's just a little too soon.
Okay, let's no, I'd agree with you. Actually. I also think it's too soon. I think you need a couple of step ups on the resume, especially before we start talking about him actually winning a world title, even competing, I suppose, for a world title as well. We need a few more stepping stones before we get to that. But talking of stepping stones, I suppose there's other super middleweight contenders thoroughly around that 168 pound division. I'm going to ask you sort of how you think Callum Simpson would fare against those. We've got obviously Diego Pacheco, Julio slash Enrique Iglesias. Oh no, sorry, Alicias Iglesias, Christian and Billy, and Edgar Berlanga for sort of four names that are sort of kicking around. Obviously, as sort of similar sort of records. I mean, 13, sort of 14, 16 fights, sort of those on the records as well. So kind of again looking to ascend, aren't they, to the sort of championship world title level? How do you rate Callum Simpson's chances against those guys? Do you think he would be a sort of middling contender against those guys? Do you see those guys as being a level above him? Do you think he could compete with those guys, or do you think that where do you see him? Would the landscape up against those sort of contenders, Paul?
Yeah, I think of the four names you've mentioned there, mate, I give him a chance in the future against two of them, definitely. Um, so Pacheco, I think he's the real deal. I think he could rule at 168 for a while. Um, I don't see Callum Simpson beating Diego Pacheco, if I'm honest. I also find it difficult to back him against Iglesias. I think that's a really difficult fight, a difficult night's work. Should not see that going Callum Simpson's way either, to be frank. Berlanga, yeah, I know he had that Canelo fight and he ended up, doing better maybe than people thought, but I still think, that's at a level. Um, could he beat Berlanga? I mean, I'm no Edgar Berlanga super fan, but I would probably still back Berlanga there. I'd give Callum Simpson far more of a chance against Berlanga than the two other names we mentioned. And Christian and Bailey, I mean, he's brilliant. I think the Frenchman, he is superb. I think. I don't know, again, mate, without like, I don't want to sound like I'm kind of backing against Callum Simpson. Every name that we mentioned here, there are obviously a lot of fighters I would back him to win against. But just of those names, those fringe contenders, suppose you would say, those names who will be looking to get themselves into the world title mix, if not in 2025, early 2026, similarly to what probably Callum Simpson thinking in his head as well. I don't see him really beating any of them. It's still a lot to prove to me, as I said at the beginning. But yeah, I think it's super middleweight, just below. Once Canelo's not there, forget him, pretend he's not here for a
Mm.
second. There are so many world class fighters, in my opinion, that could rule the division for a long time. My money would be on Diego Pacheco, unless he has to move up to light heavy or whatever. But yeah, even if you think about David Benavidez, if he was to come back down,
Oh.
you'd have to have him up there. David Morrell the same. I know they're fighting each other, but say one of them came back down to super middle rather than being at light heavy. Are you backing Callum Simpson against either of those guys? Probably not. Probably not. But yeah, I mean, yeah, it's a
Yeah, you
tough
know
one, man. I
what? Yeah.
don't see him being able to really do much against any of those next in line world title challengers, to be frank.
Yeah, you know what, Paul? I think you've hit the nail on the head with those names. I think you look at the guys who've had to show sort of 20. I mean, Billy's had what 28 fights. I think Jacobs had 22. But a lot of those wins by stoppage as well. Belanga just gone 12 rounds of Canelo. So you sit there and go, I mean, really, Callum's got to do a lot, hasn't he, to kind of turn it around to us and sort of say, you're proving at that level. We've got 50 fights in or whatever. So you need really to go on a run of sort of three solid sort of top 10 contenders really before we even start talking about that really. And even then, I'd probably still back Diego Pacheco to beat you. And that's and again, like you say, Iglesias up and coming as well. And Bealey obviously kind of proven and tested, as is Belanga. So these guys are more experienced. They've had sort of 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, like more significantly more fights on their record against better opposition. So for me, Callum Simpson would have to do quite a bit to get into that discussion, or for us to sit around here and say that he competed at that level. But we are here to give some predictions, Paul. You mentioned obviously this being a tougher fight actually than on paper. That Steve Woodall got 19-2-1 record, 12 KOs. I suppose last time, good victory against Lerone Richards. People were surprised by that, weren't they? The TKO victory in the 6th round. Lost to your man, Podrick McCrory as well. They went the distance, obviously, with him. How do you see this fight playing out, Paul, here? Do you see Callum Simpson winning this fight? Do you see it being a close fight? Do you see it being a stoppage? Do you see it going the distance? Who wins, Paul, and how?
Yeah, so as you mentioned, I mean, Steed Woodall shocked the world, I suppose, with the last time against Lerone Richards, who was on course for at one stage, being the man at super middleweight from these shores. But yeah, Steed Woodall ironed him out what in six rounds as a massive underdog. As you said, I've seen Steed Woodall live in the flesh. I think he fought Paddy McCrory in Falls Park in Belfast in 2023. It was a great fight. It was a really, really entertaining fight. He took a huge amount of licks. He gave as good as he got. It was actually a very, very close fight. McCrory just nicking it. And then, yes, since then, obviously that win against Lerone Richards he'll be oozing confidence. I think this will be a tough night's work for Callum Simpson, but I do think he has enough to get the job done. I don't think he'll stop Steed Woodall, to be frank. I think that yeah, I can't see that happening, to be honest. I think Steve Woodall's better than people maybe give him credit for, and better. Like he's not a huge name by any stretch, but I think he does deserve a shot here at the Commonwealth and British titles. Ultimately, I see him falling short, but I'm going to go Callum Simpson to win this fight via decision, mate. What about you?
Yeah, I can't disagree. I think Steve Woodall's proven to be tough. I think Callum Simpson might. I mean, there's a chance that Callum Simpson might get him out. I don't think Steve Woodall stops Callum Simpson by any stretch. But 12 rounds, does Callum Simpson maybe get to him down the stretch? Possibly. Like you said, he took a lot of licks. He was chin tested last time and came through that. So maybe not. But I'm gonna disagree slightly. I'm gonna make him say Callum Simpson late KO, Paul, just to bring a bit of drama to the video. So somewhere sort of 9 round plus. But Paul, thank you very much for joining me. So that's all we've got time for. Guys, let us know in the comments where you see Callum Simpson, the super middleweight, how you think he'd get on against those names, those prospects that we mentioned, as well as your predictions for this fight. Like and subscribe, obviously, to the channel. Let us know what you think. Leave comments, engagements, and all that stuff, because we will use it to improve content or to tailor it in ways which appeal to you. Paul, as always, thank you very much for joining me. Guys, as always, thank you very much for watching, and we'll see you again soon.